the core substance would be correct. Of course, Ditko would say, "Oh, no, Jack got that backwards. That wasn't on Hulk. That was on Fantastic Four that happened." But it's the core of the story was always correct and valid. And then years later, I did a long interview with Saul Brodsky, who was the production manager at Marvel through all of this. And again, everything just backed up, and you could see it. You could see Jack's creativity. When anybody took him on an idea, go, yeah, that's how he operated. And if he was that way with everybody else, obviously he was that way with Stan. He could not do that. Jack could not. He even had trouble withholding ideas. His last year or two at Marvel, when he felt that he was not getting the contract he deserved, or the promises were not being kept to him, he made a conscious effort to not give them a quote, not give them any Silver Surfers, unquote. That was the phrase. And he couldn't do it. New ideas kept leaking out of him, new ideas. Sometimes even chocolate, things were Marvel and chocolate, but anyway, he couldn't stop creating, which was an amazing part of it. We got a little more time here. What folks, Scott?
I just want to make this plea, because when we all leave, it'll be crazy. At the last year's convention, I talked with Fran, and I don't want to reveal too much, but I had an idea for an iPhone application that would be for every Kirby fan with an iPhone, but isn't really a sanctioned Kirby property. So we wanted to, over the year, I storyboarded out what this thing could do. And what we want to do is make this available. I'd like to all the profits to go to the Jack Kirby Museum. But I need I need to work with a Jack Kirby expert who can also do that kind of technology to create an application with me. Is there anybody here that does that sort of thing? Or if you know anybody that does that sort of thing?
There's a hand up over there.
Please contact me. I'm in your part or something, or I'll give you mine, because I'd love to have this out there, because it would be something that could bring in money on a fairly consistent basis to anybody that ever read any of the There's the clue for you. Don't tell DC about it.
You all know who that was, but for the benefit of John Marlowe's recording this for the Jack Kirby Company, that's Scott Shaw, one of my oldest friends, who I met at Jack Kirby's house in 1970, and another one of many, many artists who were encouraged by Jack, and went on to a very amazing professional career. And Jack saw the talent in really with Scott's now to us primitive work, and encouraged him. And Scott, what was your son's name again?
Kurtzberg. He's one of the cult of Kirby's out there. There are enough kids now of cartoonists who respected Jack that they can form their own club.
I know I think 6 kids named Kirby after Jack, a couple of Jacks.
Rick Beach's son's named Kirby.
We got time for another question or two. Anybody else want to ask anything? Yes, sir.
How are you progressing in your big book, Kirby? Is there an estimated date of completion?
I am progressing wonderfully on the book. It is quite lovely and coming along fine. And no, there is not an estimate. There's an estimated date of completion of the next year or two, but I don't know when it will be published. I think that would be a question best directed to my attorney.
I can make the deal in 24 hours. I just need to know when to do it.
So 24 hours before the deal is done.
Yes, sir. There.
After creating Captain America and the great success of Jack Kirby, how did Jack end up at Atlas with the company?
How did Jack end up at Atlas? The comic book industry was in recession, and he needed to work someplace. And he held off as long as possible. He went to every other publisher. He didn't want to go back to Atlas because he felt he had not been treated properly there in the Captain America days. But Jack was all about converting for his kids. He came out of a generation. If you really need to understand the core of Jack, and if you got nothing else out of my book on him, you must understand this. The job one with Jack, as it was with almost anyone of his generation. My father was roughly a contemporary and also Jewish and such. The number was to provide for his family. And Jack did a number of things in his life that he might have preferred not to. He might have preferred not to go back to Marlboro once or twice in his life. But job one was to have that paycheck on Friday, buy groceries, provide a roof over your head, and all the fights over like original art and such. That wasn't Jack just fighting because he wanted money. That was Jack fighting because he wanted to leave his family something if he dropped dead. And actually, when he did drop dead, Roz Kirby paid her mortgage with the patients that Jack and we'd all fought to get Jack back. That was the core of this man. The soul of him was this compassion to be a mensch, to be a human being who functioned as he as a human being had to do, was to be socially responsible and responsible for your own life and your own family. And it's one of the things that I came to understand about Jack and admire, maybe as much as I admired the ability to come up with a Silver Surfer or things of that sort. One more question here.
I have a 16-year-old daughter who is the first one out of the kids our youngest who actually is beginning to appreciate doing things working together. It's really cool. But I started to talk to her about Jack Kirby, and I find myself babbling. Is there a primer? Is there, this is who the man was? Go from there.
I published it last year. Yeah, that was actually, I having promised this
Still in print. Lots of copies still available from Abrams Publishing.
That's right. Yes, go downstairs and first Charlie Koch. The reason we did that book, I've been offered, over the years, we write books on Jack. I said, no, I'm going to write this big, huge one. And the book gets more complicated, I learn more things, I find out more stuff all the time, and I don't want to do it wrong, and then I put an amended book version 3 years down the line. And all of a sudden, I just kept people dangling too long. There needs to be a primer out there for Jack. There needs to be an overview book. And that's what I was trying to do. And Charlie Koch just happened to call me a week I was thinking that and said, hey, come on, we desperately need her. What had happened, I think, was that they had lost a book on Picasso and all their schedule. I think Jack would have liked to have been published by an art book, the leading art book publisher in the world. That alone was a statement that mattered to me. Was that Jack was important enough to be in the Abrams catalog. And so,
Charlie Koch was the editor at Abrams and it should be downstairs at the Abrams booth.
Okay, last question.
Would it be possible to do a documentary like the Stan Lee documentary with Jack Kirby? Dead. Jack Kirby.
One of the things that happens in the comic business these days, we get called about once every week by someone who's doing a documentary on the history of comics. And I've done 5 interviews at this convention for them, and I get called about once a month and somebody saying, I want to do a Jack Kirby documentary. Unfortunately, I don't think there's that many people around, enough people around left to interview. I don't think there's that much footage of Jack. If somebody can do it, fine, wonderful, I'd love to see it. But it's not a new idea. There's probably 100 people who've approached me over the years, and nobody's ever been able to put it together. So, anyway, we are out of time here. We will do another one of these next year. Would you join me in thanking Mark?